I'm sure this is not just a road to Tom Blust, who is the Director of Engineering at the Road Commission for Oakland County. This is not just a road, is it, Tom?
No, it's not. It's central portion of the community. It's a centerpiece, if you will, bring it all together.
So, like an architect of a great skyscraper, do you drive by your roads and you go, yeah, I remember that one, and I remembered that one, and, and then look at other people's roads and tell your friends and neighbors and family and kids about it?
Yeah, having been at the Road Commission for 25 years, I certainly do that. I remember, we drive down these roads and you say, oh my gosh, I remember when that was a 2-lane track, and that one was terrible, and that bridge was falling down. And, yeah, a lot of good development over the years.
Our former township supervisor, Dave Fleischer, sitting right here, and he was involved in this project. And look how old he is. No, I'm just kidding, Dave. But look how old I am. I mean, but seriously, why does it take so long to get through a project? I'm not picking on you or Dave or anybody. There was a lot. Why does it take so long? There's a lot to work out, isn't there?
Yeah, there is, and I'm glad you asked that question because people don't realize, this was community driven. When a project is proposed, in this case we're using federal funding, and when you're using federal funding and you're using proposing a large project like this, we had a series of public information meetings, took all the different options into account, modeled a lot of those. Some of the designers over at Orchard Hills Climate, John Caters in particular, who's here today, sweated all the details, a lot of modeling, looking at all the different options, what we can do with signals, what we can do with roundabouts, how many lanes it takes, et cetera. And
so when did this start? When did the initial planning start?
Well, this project started back when they dead-ended the Northwestern Highway into Orchard Lake Road, and the Road Commission said, no, you were supposed to bring it through and get it out of the west side.
So it was the original plan. The other road people wanted to keep Northwestern going. It was, maybe for many good reasons, I'm sure, that people living here didn't want a road going right through their neighborhood.
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. But then a lot of West Bloomfield had been developed. So the project was brought about trying to get the traffic from the Northwestern Highway over to Haggerty Road, the other state highway on the other side of the Northwestern Connector project. So it really became in earnest in the 1990s. We started going through the environmental assessment at that time, looking at all the different options, and since then we've been securing funding, we've been buying right-of-way, we've been designing and building each piece at a time, each of the roundabouts as it go across Maple Road. And
so you got to work out money, you got to get everyone to agree, you got to figure out how to build the darn thing, and I hope you don't mind me interrupting. I'm just thinking that on top of that, technology changes, new ideas, new developments. Your industry, like any other industry, is evolving. And then, roundabouts. When you started this at the very beginning, there wasn't a single roundabout anywhere with, as I told somebody earlier, the only thing I knew about a roundabout was on a Beatles album, for goodness sakes, right? I mean, there were no roundabouts here anywhere, right? So how did these new developments come into play as well?
This was a relatively new development in traffic safety when we were looking at the environmental assessments for this project, and we were absolutely opposed to roundabouts at the time. The Road Commission said, "Oh, never, we're never going to go with that." And then we started. We agreed to at least look at the alternatives, and the consultants came in with, what they could do with them. They showed us that they could travel, they could handle more traffic. The numbers for safety are just incredible. They reduce crashes by 40%, reduce injury crashes by over 75%, and reduce fatalities and debilitating crashes by over 90%.
And
we
this
can't do that with anything else.
Right, and this is a trend that started developing, I know, here in Michigan and other counties around Michigan, and I assume in other regions of the country.
Right. There, I think there's 2,000 or 3,000 of them throughout the country now.
Okay. And
Oakland County is a leader. We're right in there with the nationals. The roundabouts that we have here on this project, Maple Drake, Maple Farmington, and of course 14 Orchard Lake Road, have some of the highest traffic volumes that are handled by roundabouts in the country.
And I've told many people, I just happen to live right in the south side of 14 and Orchard, so I drive that roundabout every day, a couple of times, and I love it. I mean, the traffic flow, because of that roundabout and the improved roundabout at Northwestern Highway, that was just a start-stop mess before, because you catch one light, then you catch the next light, and if and there's no way to get those timed properly, and so then you're one of 3 cars sitting between the lights, and it would take forever to get traffic moving through the roundabout and down the road, and or not the roundabout, but through the intersection and down the road. And since the roundabout has been there, I know it's hard for some people to get used to, but I got to tell you, it's great.
I'm glad to hear that. In fact, actually, I'm glad you brought that up because I'd like to let your audience know. A lot of people are, have difficulties navigating roundabouts, and they are so simple if you remember a couple of basic rules. One, just like a regular intersection, get in the lane you want before you get to the intersection. If you're making a left, get in the left lane. If you're making a right, get in the right lane. It's that simple. When you get to the circle, yield to all the lanes in the circle. That's one thing that people are not recognizing. They need to realize that traffic that's in the circle may be exiting at the next leg, so they have to let all of that traffic go by, select a gap, stay in your lane, and it will take you right out to your destination.
And the other thing I tell my friends, if you're getting dizzy, you're driving too fast. So thanks for laughing. That was very charitable. So you're kind of the roundabout expert, or roundabout, not kind of. You understand, to be more accurate, you are one of the foremost experts in roundabouts around the country. You speak about them. Are we going to see more? Are there new developments? Are the roundabouts we have here state of the art?
Yeah, they are. Actually, the roundabout that we built at Maple Drake was one of the first of a fairly large size roundabout, and we learned some lessons from that, and we've taken those lessons, and as you mentioned, we've lectured about them nationally. One of the things that we've learned from that is what we call right sizing in roundabouts, where we reduce the size of the roundabout, keep the circle pretty tight so it reduces the speeds. Also, we don't build extra lanes and extra capacity, so even if traffic backs up a little bit, it's usually dissipated within 30 seconds or 45 seconds. So we don't build them too big, and that has reduced the crashes.
And that's probably why you didn't do what I thought you were going to be doing when I first saw the construction at Northwestern and 14. Are they building one big roundabout that's going to include the Northwestern and the 14-mile interchange all into one? Did you think about that, or would that have been too much?
As a matter of fact, I mentioned the environmental assessment, and we looked at all the different options. We looked at signals on all 3 of those. We looked at one large roundabout. We looked at 3 roundabouts. We looked at crossovers and flyovers, and all of those options were modeled and gone through in great detail. And this is the one that works for those of you who are familiar with it. The triangle, or rather the roundabout, sits in the sort of the base of the triangle with signals at Northwestern and 14 Mile and Northwestern and Orchard Lake Road. Those 2 signals have to operate in tandem on very short cycles so that we don't back the traffic up into the roundabout.
I hope you don't mind me saying this. You're clearly a roundabout geek. I mean, you love that, and your guys out here too. They're smiling. Oh yeah,
They're just laughing at me.
Well, no, it's very cool. Everything has something. And listen, we drive them every day. There's nothing funny about it. They're really important. They have to move traffic. We don't want people dying as they're driving. They're safer. They're better. They're working well. And it's a change, and change is it's change difficult for some people. One other question, I'm going to let you go because I know you got to get out of here. But this double left-hand turn that we have on Orchard and Maple now, is that new? I've never driven one of those before. Are you doing that elsewhere? Was that something unique for here?
Yeah, we've got some dual lefts other places in the road commission's jurisdiction in the county. High volume roads, high volume intersections, which this was. The original plan for this was a roundabout, but we were unable to really come to agreement with the township and some of the businesses nearby to actually build the roundabout there. So the township actually proposed and went ahead and funded building the dual lefts, and it's obviously an improvement, great improvement to get traffic flow. And it's not quite what we had envisioned, but that's one of those things that you work with the communities, and that's.
Oh yeah, we got to compromise,
Yeah, well, that's what you do.
I was joking earlier.
Customers.
I said I wondered whether the conversation between the township and the road commission was like the Democrats and the Republicans. I assume it wasn't quite that bad.
Sometimes it was, sometimes it wasn't.
But we made it, right?
Yeah,
We're here. We
right.
made it, and everyone is thrilled. Everything in life is a process. I said I wasn't going to ask you any more questions, but I'm having a ball. I got 2 more.
No problem.
Trucks. How do trucks handle roundabouts?
Actually, I'm glad you asked that one too, because the roundabouts do handle trucks, and that's one of the reasons that the roundabouts are a little bit larger here. Just like anything else, we have to build them to accommodate trucks. This is actually part of the National Highway System, Orchard Lake Road. And so trucks will get in. They are welcome to take a couple of lanes and go ahead through the circle. And drivers that are near those trucks need to recognize that those trucks need a lot of room to turn. And so back off, give them some space. They're going to need both the lanes in the circle.
Same thing like don't cut on the right-hand side of a truck that's coming out to make a right-hand turn, and people do that and get themselves in trouble. I just be careful all the time around trucks. I don't think I now have my CDL, and before I had it, I had no understanding or appreciation for what it's like to drive a big rig. I don't drive the real big ones, but until you do it, you don't realize the challenge, and then you got all these little guys buzzing around you causing trouble. It's hard.
And you mentioned you have a CDL, and by the way, our guys that took care of that wherever you were in the county, whether it was 6 inches up to 10 inches through the county, roads are
Did a
doing
great job.
They work all night to do this, and you got to really give them a big salute.
Just outside, I know it was a West Bloomfield show and a West Bloomfield day, but just outside of West Bloomfield are some of the most unique interchanges and overpasses I've ever used. I'm thinking of Wixom Road and 96. I believe that's part of your service area. Am I correct? Now, that's not interstate. Maybe you don't touch those.
Right.
But you must know about them. Why did they build those overpasses? That's just, it's kind of like a overpass roundabout kind of thing, sort of. There's probably a more technical term than that.
There is, of course, there is. And, of course, an acronym. Us engineers, we've got to have acronyms for everything. That is a SPUI, a single-point urban interchange. And
see, if I had said SPUI on the radio, I might have been the end of my broadcast. But glad you
it's all right. You got a CDL. We got a job for you. Okay. We got a spot for you.
All right.
But those, you'll see them somewhere, different places in the country. That makes the interchange more compact as opposed to the traditional cloverleaf that requires a lot of right-of-way, quite often tearing out a lot of existing businesses and stuff. So what it does is it brings the traffic from the freeway up, and you actually then do the mixing on the top of the deck of the bridge.
It's just another really good example, and there's a lot of it here in our brand new road that is just attributable back to guys like you, Tom Blust, and your team of engineers that are sitting here, putting a lot of work and time and energy and thought and research and 2017 thinking into making our experience on the road safer and better and more enjoyable. And I really appreciate everything you do for us.
Well, thank you. I'd also like to shout out to my construction folks that handled this, particularly Jerry Ely was the project engineer overseeing the actual construction end of it, and Jim Persinger was the inspector. He dealt with all of these businesses out here, helping them continue to get access, telling them which driveway was going to be open or which driveway was going to be closed and when, and really just daily worked with these folks. They both did just a great job.
Tom Blust, Director of Engineering, Road Commission for Oakland County. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Appreciate the conversation, the opportunity.
No, very good.